Being a Psych NP is probably the best decision I've made, but not a lot of people know what we do. And in this video, I'm going to be going over 5 interesting facts about psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners. So stay tuned. Welcome back, Psych Dude family. It's good seeing each and every one of you guys today. If you are new to this channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm the Psych Dude. I'm a board-certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And in this channel, I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and specifically psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners. If you are interested in these topics, definitely feel free to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram at THEPSYCHDUDE. Also, make sure you like this video because if you really enjoyed it, make sure you like it because it helps out with the algorithm and it helps me get more known out there. So you probably clicked this video because you're wondering what are interesting facts about psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners. And honestly, I find these facts amazing because if you really think about it, not that many people know about what we do or what we can do, what we can't do. And realistically, there's some nurses out there that don't even know we exist. So imagine the public not knowing. They're definitely not gonna know. So I figured might as well make a video on 5 facts that I found interesting for myself and I wish I would have known prior, but now I know them and I'm glad that they exist. So without further ado, let's go over these 5 interesting facts about psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners. Let's go! So the first fact is we do therapy. And to be honest, you think that we would do very little because a lot of the times people have the common misconception that all we do is medication management. Yes, there are people that typically do that depending on how fast and how many patients they see on a daily basis. But realistically speaking, we do see patients more often than not. And if you're in the actual real world, a lot of people you'll see for 30 minutes to an hour. So depending on that time frame, you are able to provide therapy. And a lot of the times you're providing supportive therapy and just being able to support what they're already learning. Yes, you don't have as much time compared to therapists just because of billing purposes, but for the most part, you do have enough time to provide the supportive therapy. And then when you're doing evaluations, you get to do motivational interviewing. And that's important that we're able to do this. And not a lot of people know that because when they associate psychiatrists or psychiatric nurse practitioners, all they think about is all they do is medication management. Don't even try to do therapy with them. And that's a huge common misconception. And I'm here to tell you that we do therapy. So the second interesting fact is we actually can bill up to 85% of what psychiatrists make. Yes, 85%. So think about all the money that they make. We can potentially make 85% of it. Typically we don't, but if you work for establishment, then they bill up to 85% of it. And if you do have your own private practice, you can actually do that. So depending on the private practice and depending on the insurance reimbursement, you are able to make up to 85% of what psychiatrists bill. So if you're billing for a psychiatric evaluation with medical services, you're able to bill 85% of what they make. If you're billing for therapy or supportive therapy, you are able to bill up to 85% of what psychiatrists make. And not a lot of people know that. A lot of people automatically think like, oh, they're only psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners, so they can't make that much money compared to psychiatrists. But if you do think about it, if you're able to bill up to 85% of what they make, that's a huge chunk compared to what you can make somewhere else working for someone else. And that's the good thing about being a psych nurse practitioner is we're able to bill that amount. And not a lot of people know about it because it's not well known out there. And a lot of times when you do get reimbursement rates from these insurance persons, people, companies, so to speak, they don't necessarily tell you about it. But looking side by side, you can get up to 85% of it. And yeah, I figured might as well tell you guys, get you guys excited, riled up about what potentially you can make I'm not saying it's all about the money, but it's good to know what we're worth, and we're worth 85% of psychiatrists. I'm just kidding, but we can make that amount, and it's good to know that, especially when you're going into a field, because you now know what you can potentially make and how much you're worth. So the third interesting fact about a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner is that a lot of us practice the holistic approach. It's not necessarily just assess, diagnose, and treat. It's not that. A lot of us have a nursing background, so we have that nursing model, and we're able to provide that. We're able to look at the body as a whole. So we focus on mind, body, soul, and we focus on education, prevention, and we can treat. So the beauty about being a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner is you're able to use different varieties and different forms of treatment. It doesn't necessarily only have to be what they say in the books. We're able to use complementary medicine, and we're able to use alternative therapies. So definitely take that into consideration. Some people do, some people don't. Everyone's different, but at the end of the day, the good thing about being a nurse practitioner is that we have the nursing model under us. We learn through that, and we're able to use the evidence-based practices to give the best kind of care for our patients and seeing them as a whole as opposed to just one disease process. So the fourth interesting fact that a lot of people don't know about psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners is the fact that we are teachers. And that's the biggest thing. As teachers, we get to educate patients on a daily basis. And that's so important, especially when, like I said, of teaching the holistic approach with prevention, education, and treatment. A lot of the times we are doing so much education. And I think that's the biggest thing, is because as a provider or as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, a lot of the times you come into a situation where patients don't necessarily understand why they're having these symptoms, why they're actually being treated, things of that nature, especially with mental health being such a topic where there's so much stigma involved with it, and a lot of the time you have to kind of break those barriers through education. And if you're not educating them, they're not going to necessarily understand what you're doing. So the reason why I say that a lot of us are teachers is because we have to provide so much education. We have to provide education to the patient. We have to provide education to other teachers. If we're trying to provide actual services to a child, we have to provide to parents, we have to provide to siblings, everyone, the whole group. We have to provide education. And that's the reason I say we're teachers, because we have to do all of that. And the reason why it's interesting for me is because you don't go into this thinking like, oh, all you're going to be doing is educating, and because a lot of the things you're doing is you're actually providing care. That's what you think. But a lot of it is providing the education, because at the end of the day, if they don't understand what they're being treated for, why they're being treated for, then they're not going to necessarily know like if they need to take it or not. Unless you provide that education, then they'll believe in what you're actually treating and fully understand, okay, this needs to be done and it's important. And being a teacher is the greatest thing, is because we're able to provide that and gain this sense of wanting to help, and gain the sense that they're willing to actually learn all of these things, and it feels so good when you do that. So I love being a teacher as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So the fifth and final interesting fact is the fact that we do not need a psychiatrist above us all the time. So there are probably about 20 plus states where you can practice independently, and a lot of people don't know that. People don't realize that we can practice independently in so many different states. Unfortunately, California isn't one of them, but there are so many different states around us where you're able to practice by yourself. And that's the beauty of becoming a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, is you're able to do that. You're able to treat patients based on your plan of care. You're able to assess them properly. You're able to diagnose them properly. And you're able to treat them properly based off of these evidence-based practices. And you can do it by yourself without having to collaborate or be in a restricted state where there's a supervising psychiatrist, and that's the beauty of our role. A lot of people don't know that, especially the public. They don't necessarily realize that nurse practitioners can actually practice by themselves. They can own their own practice. They could just do their own thing, and realistically speaking, that's a huge win for us nurse practitioners. And honestly guys, a lot of these facts I find interesting. You might not find it interesting, but I figured this is the greatest way for us to spread more knowledge base about what we do as psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners, because realistically speaking, not a lot of people know what we do, and they don't know that we actually exist. So it's something that a lot of us have to spread the word, especially if you work in the psych field or you're nurse practitioners or even a PA. You need to spread the word about what we all do and what we actually do and all do, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to cover as much ground as possible to help the patients with mental illness, because a lot of them are suffering and they don't necessarily know that our help is out there. So the more that you can educate, the more that you can promote your actual profession, the likelihood of you actually treating more patients than not. Well guys, this concludes my video. I definitely hope you did enjoy it. I hope you thoroughly loved what I was saying, and if you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. And if you made it this far, thank you so much, and I appreciate all of you guys. Definitely spread the word, like this video, share this video, and definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and follow me on Instagram at ThePsychDude. Until next video, I'll see you guys then. Bye.